Hello, friends. In this video, I'm going to show you why Shopify is not twice as good, but hundreds of times better than running just an Etsy store in 9 reasons. So let's jump right in. Okay, hold on. Wait a minute. First, you give us all this Etsy content, and now you're telling us to go to Shopify. What gives? Now, Etsy is actually a really good platform to start on. And you can create some designs, look at other bestsellers, create similar ones, etc., make some sales. Yeah, it's a fun way to start. But the problem is that when I started with Etsy, I assumed that Etsy would just grow year over year. And unfortunately, the opposite was true. Whereas with Shopify, when you grow year over year, you actually build a brand and actually build something cool. If I was starting over again today, I would start with Etsy probably, play shop for a little while, and then switch to Shopify while keeping the Etsy store and running a little hybrid and grow from there. And yes, this is more work. And yes, this is more challenging, but it's also infinitely more rewarding. And you will bypass the Etsy rut entirely and just have more creative fulfillment in the long run. Which brings me to point number 1, which is Shopify is more creatively fulfilling. So you will be working on your brand. You will be working on your socials, your customers, reaching your audience. This is a different game. When you start getting those customers through socials, through search, through referrals, influencers, those are your customers. Think about that. You will do more and you will get so much more in return. So instead of just working on your Etsy store, which in reality is just a sub page on Etsy.com competing with millions of other sub pages, instead of doing that, you are working on your own funnels, your own social media, your own ads, your own website, your own blog, your own personal brand if you combine it with that, and so much more. So yes, it is more work, but in a good way, in a way where you're building something of value. Point number 2, audience control. So unlike with Etsy, you actually control your audience. You get to send them discount offers, behind the scenes looks, email newsletters, social media updates, direct messages, you name it. This is not only more fun, it's also a valuable asset. Once you have a big enough audience, that pretty much translates into predictable income. Whereas with Etsy, you could be the biggest Etsy shop in the world and be gone tomorrow. And this has happened. There's this website where you can see the top 100 Etsy stores, and many are gone. So last month on Etsy means absolutely nothing because Etsy can just change their algorithm, stop giving you customers, and poof, it's gone. So controlling and owning your audience is a massive, valuable asset. And that brings me to number 3, it's an actual asset. Did you know that you can sell a profitable Shopify store for 20, 30, 40 months worth of profit on marketplaces like Empire Flippers or Flippa.com? I've even sold unprofitable Shopify stores for good amounts simply because the new owner was interested in owning the asset, the pixel data, the customer data, the branding value, the designs, etc. You cannot sell an Etsy store. It is non-transferable. So in that sense, running an Etsy store is more like being an employee for Etsy rather than building an asset. You aren't building anything. Of course, Etsy brings you the customers, which is why it's a nice platform to start on. But in the long run, it's just not viable. Number 4 is branding. Gary Vee said that everything nowadays is a commodity except for a brand. Anybody in the world can see your best-selling designs on Etsy and just copy them. So I once had to copy strike somebody for stealing my design, and I ended up copy striking, I think it was about 14 different stores that were literally the same store 14 times, okay? And some guy from Vietnam or something, he owned the same store 14 times, okay? That's what you're competing with. And nowadays with AI, it's worse because there's more automation and just more competition because of it. So the competition increases because people use AI and software to do these kinds of things, whereas the customer base for Etsy.com is not even increasing. And yes, to a certain extent, this also applies to Shopify because the whole world can see your ad copy. The whole world can see your social media strategy. And it is very possible, very likely that somebody will steal your designs and your ads. Yeah. But since you're building a brand and since you are targeting that very specific person and becoming a part of their world through your marketing, that's where the fun is, and that's where they cannot copy you. So it all becomes about this specific piece of content that directly speaks to that person you're trying to reach, and then they become part of your tribe. And once they are become part of your tribe, that's the branding, and that's not a commodity that can just be stolen and taken away from you. And that's my whole point here. Number 5 is payment control. With Etsy, they hold your funds sometimes for 14 days or more, and they basically control the funds, right? Whereas with Shopify, the Shopify payments has a 3-day hold, at least for me, and PayPal is instant, okay? So yeah, that's a huge difference. You actually get the money. You actually can be in a position where you receive the money first, then you pay Printify or your supplier, and instead of the other way around where you need to upfront all the money, which is just bullshit. And PayPal is instant, so you also get to get paid in any way that you would like. So it's pretty good. Number 6 is ad scalability. If you are running meta ads, these things are actually scalable. It is possible that you have an ad that you spend $10 a day on, but once it works and you scale it up, within a week, you could be spending $500 a day on this thing and be profitable, okay? And you can clone the campaign, clone the ad set, you can increase the budget on the ad set, etc. And you can scale it as fast as you want as long as it is profitable. That is not a thing, that's not at all possible. On Etsy, there's no scalability with ads. Huge plus. There is such a thing as Etsy ads, but it's not really ads. Same goes for the offsite ads. Like Etsy runs their own ads on Google, but they are just terrible. They're just the image with the title. Like they don't even make good copy. There's no scalability and the ads are bad. So yeah, it's doubly bad. Number 7 is omnichannel is possible. So my goal of this video is not to get you to stop Etsy, but to think differently about the print-on-demand brand that you're building and to start seeing it as a brand because that's where the longevity is. And when you think about it that way, Etsy and Amazon simply become sales channels, not your master. This is called omnichannel, which is totally fine as long as you see the big picture, as long as you understand that Etsy is just a sales channel, but it is not your boss who's forcing you to be uncreative and to keep grinding away, trying to make this next few designs to rank in the algorithm and completely lose your creativity. No. That's not what you're supposed to do. You want to be creative, don't you? That's probably why you got into print on demand in the first place. That's the point of this video. The point of this video is to help you to understand branding and to just see it a little bit differently so you can get your creativity back and get your power back and have some fun with it. So reason number 8 is that there's new levels possible. When you go beyond just Etsy, there are new levels possible. New levels of creativity and new levels of growth. For example, for one of my Shopify stores, the meta ads stopped working, so I had to pivot and do something else. So I went ahead and go to influencer marketing. So I had to learn influencer marketing, which was challenging, but at the end of the day was very rewarding. And that is just a new level that you would have never had to reach if you simply only did the Etsy grind. But I learned a valuable skill. Another example is you might discover that building a personal brand alongside your Shopify is extremely effective at getting you customers. Well, that is something you would have never learned if you just did the Etsy rut. And yes, of course, you can also do social media marketing and influencers for your Etsy shop, but that's not a good idea. Like we explained before, you want to own your audience, customers, and be in control. So number 9 is blue ocean. What do I mean by blue ocean? I mean that through your Shopify, I believe that you can truly be creative. You can target such a specific customer and reach them directly through a single piece of content. You can become something that doesn't exist yet, that your audience would love to buy from and become a customer. Because people are really sick of buying from big brands sometimes. They don't want to do that. So if they can support a small business, they will. But the way to do that is not on Etsy. On Etsy, you are just a drop in the water, competing with bots and competing with foreign sellers and software, basically. Now, I'm not saying you can't do both. By all means, do both. And I will make a video in the future about how to run an effective hybrid, which is great. And you can also start with Etsy and just play around with it for a little while and play shop for a little while. That's fine. But just understand that in the long run, I truly believe you're better off building a brand and building a Shopify store. All right, so that's it for this video. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, just let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. It really helps me grow the channel. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.